All right, good evening, everyone. We thank you for joining us this evening as we are dealing with another Fountain of Life town hall meeting. Our topic this evening is Voting It Matters. We are coming up to a general election that's going to take place in November. We have registration that will be ending October 11th. And then on October 12th, early voting begins. And so it is important that we get out this year and vote like never before. I know that this is not an election where we are electing the president, but understand, people, that this is one of the most important elections that this country is facing. And so that's why we're having this town hall meeting, because we want you to be well informed. You know, the Bible says that the people perish because of a lack of knowledge. Knowledge is powerful. And so without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to our moderator this evening, who is none other than Jonathan Proctor, who is a product of Arizona State University. He is part of the media ministry, Fountain of Life, and he is part of the board of directors at Fountain of Life. And so, Jonathan, thank you, sir, for agreeing to do this this evening. It is in your hands.
Thank you, Bishop Russell. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for joining this town hall. The purpose of it, like Bishop Russell said, is to bring more knowledge from the subject matter experts to voting and having a plan to vote, because like he said, there is strength in numbers and we can really make a difference out there in the voting polls. Today, we have our two panelists. First up will be Avery Zola. He is the Voter Education Manager for the Citizens Clean Election Committee. He's also responsible for educating the people of Arizona on the electoral process. He graduated with a political science degree from ASU in 2018 while interning at the Secretary of State's office under Secretary Michelle Reagan. In 2021, Avery graduated with a master's degree in public administration from the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions. Avery has a background also in campaign management, a published writer, and is an Air Force veteran. After that, we'll have Betty Galanter. Betty is the Voter Outreach Manager for the Maricopa County Elections Department. She joined the Elections Department in November 2021 to head up the Voter Outreach Department. The Voter Outreach team is committed to making a positive impact in the community by leveraging community events and opportunities to engage, educate, and inform voters about elections and how to get involved. Betty has a 25-year corporate background, having worked for the Walt Disney Company and with 21st Century Fox Consumer Products as Vice President of North America Business Development. In 2014, she and her husband moved back to Arizona when she applied her passion for public speaking and outreach in various ways. During the 2018 election cycle, Betty was a community organizer, launching voter outreach plans and events. She served 2 terms as a state committee person, precinct captain, and board member in her legislative district, and was elected as 2020 National Delegate at Large. Prior to joining the Elections Department, Betty was a regional technician with the Census Bureau responsible for Maricopa County, where she built partnerships with community leaders and citizens. First up, we will be turning it over right to Avery.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate this. This is a great opportunity to talk to the community and get the word out that voting happens all year and we should all be voting often. Again, my name is Avery Zola. I'm the Voter Education Manager for the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. We were created by actually a ballot measure, an initiative in 1998. So we were put on the ballot to restore confidence in the election process and also promote people to engage in voting. All right. Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, Arizona has election seasons. This election is very important but so is the next one. So you always got to, it's like following a sports team. You always got to know, who the players are and what your team is doing, So Arizona has statewide and legislative elections every 2 years. All statewide offices have 4-year term limits, and legislative offices have 2-year term limits. Elections happen in March, May, August, and November. You have those times to vote. Generally, March and May are local elections. August will be your primary, and November is the general election. You can go to the. What is a midterm? So generally, the most popular election is the presidential election. So that really draws people out. Generally, in midterms, there's a low voter turnout compared to when there's a president on the ballot. But why the midterm is important to Arizona and the other states is because in midterms, that's generally where we're selecting a governor for the state. The governor is kind of like our president of the state, the CEO of the state. So in midterms, actually use a popular vote to determine the winner, whereas the presidential, we have the electoral college. We can go to the next slide. All right, so for this general election, there's some important dates that I thought I'd mention to everyone. If you have any family, friends that are serving in the military, they will get a UOCAVA ballot. Or even if they're just overseas and they're a family member from the military, those go out September 24th. So the election is already underway. Your voter registration deadline this year is going to be October 11th. So you want to make sure that you register to vote. If you have to update your registration, make sure you do that at that time as well. If you move, change your name, or decide to change your political party, you're going to want to update your voter registration. So make sure you do that by October 11th. Early voting begins October 12th. So as of October 12th, you will be able to get your ballot, fill it out, mail it back. You could also visit an early voting location, vote centers, drop boxes, polling locations, things like that. So October 11th is when early voting starts. So if you just think about it, you have until October 12th, all the way until November 8th to research the candidates, to get informed. So when you get into that booth or you drop that ballot off, you know exactly who you're selecting. October 28th, that's going to be the last day to request your ballot. So you're going to want to contact your county recorder's office or your county elections department and make sure you request your ballot by October 28th. They'll back that ballot by November 2nd. So you want to make sure you fill it out, sign the back of it, put your number, just in case they have any questions about the signature, they can contact you and cure that signature. So make sure that you've requested that ballot by October 28th, mail it back by November 2nd. And your last day to vote early in person is going to be November 4th. So I wouldn't mail it on November 4th. That's too late, but you could vote early in person on November 4th. If you miss that deadline to mail it back, you could always visit a drop box or a vote center. And just remember, anytime you visit go into a vote center or polling location, you have to have your ID. But a drop box, to make sure you sign the back of your ballot and have your number, you can just drop it in there. And of course, the election day, that's the big dance. So that's like the Super Bowl. That's November 8th. That's our big day. You could, like I said, you could visit a vote center. You could visit a polling location. Vote centers, you can go anywhere in your county that is a vote center. You could drop off your ballot or you could go vote. Polling location is going to be specific to your precinct. So there's a difference there. Dropbox, you can visit any Dropbox. They're safe, secure. Usually they're monitored by a camera. So you could also use that as a choice for voting. Go to the next slide, please. All right, so what's on the ballot? So it's not a president on the ballot, but we got a lot of good stuff, a lot of important offices. We have the U.S. Senate, we have the U.S. House of Representatives. Those two offices make up our Congress. We have the governor, like I mentioned, that's an important role. Secretary of State, they're the chief filing officer for Arizona. They also handle elections and things like that, and registered trades and businesses. The Attorney General enforces civil rights. They're basically the state's attorney. That's an important position. State Treasurer, we have the Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Mine Inspector, because we do have mines. So they need to be inspected. Corporation Commission, they oversee the utility companies, the railroads, things like that. And of course, our state legislature, all new state legislature, many incumbents lost their races. So you'll probably see a bunch of new legislators this year. Judicial retention election. This is very important. This is on the back of your ballot. A lot of people like to fill out the front of the ballot to get to the back of the ballot and be like, who are these people? I don't know who these people are. Well, those people are generally going to be your judges, a lot of local races, and also your ballot propositions. So we're also going to have ballot propositions on the ballot this year. And there's a lot of them too. All right, and so just go a little bit more. For the judicial retention election, they use the judicial performance evaluation tool, and it basically gives information on voters so you can decide whether or not to retain a judge. The process, it was established in 1992 from a legislative proposal, and it was approved by voters. So they utilize the judicial performance evaluation to let the voter know either if the judge meets or does not meet their performance eval, and then you could retain them or you could not retain them. All right, and there's lots of ballot propositions on there. Propositions can be sent to the ballot by your local jurisdiction. They can be sent to the ballot by citizens themselves. They have to gain a certain amount of signatures before they can be submitted to the ballot. But yeah, like I said, clean elections, we were actually submitted to the ballot and passed, and that created our office. So ballot propositions are very powerful tool for voters and for legislators. And you can find out more information on azsos.gov/elections/initiative-referendum-recall, or you just Google SOS initiative and it'll probably. We can go. All right, and let's get into some of these, and I'm gonna just kind of disclose what are some of these propositions and what they're about. If you go to the Secretary of State's website, they will also have arguments for and against those propositions. So I'm not going to get into that, but if you want to see like what's the pros and the cons of each proposition, go to the Secretary of State's website and they have those arguments there. So just quick definitions. An initiative is a way for voters to propose laws or policies by getting a minimum number of registered voters to sign a document called a petition in order to get that proposal on the ballot to be voted on in the next election. It's often referred to as direct democracy. A bunch of people get together, get a bunch of signatures, you want to change or something like that, you get it on the ballot, it goes to the voters. A referendum, the purpose of a referendum is to give voters an opportunity to approve or reject the law that was proposed or enacted by the legislature. So if there's something that is in law right now and people hate it, they can't stand it, we have the power to put a referendum on the ballot to say, we don't like this law or this policy, we want this taken away. And then there's a recall election. Recall election is when voters obtain sufficient signatures to place an incumbent back on the ballot for voters to consider whether they want to re-elect them or not. So recall elections happen very often. Some of your very popular politicians have been up for recall. Sometimes they're recalled, sometimes they're not, but that is an option for voters. We can go to the next slide, please. So we have Prop 128. It is a constitutional amendment. This allows the legislator to amend or repeal voter-approved ballot measures that contain provisions ruled unconstitutional or invalid by the state or federal Supreme Court. So if you have a ballot measure, voters approve it, the legislator says, we don't think that's constitutional, then they can deem it invalid. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. Prop 129, it's also a constitutional amendment. This requires citizen-initiated ballot measures to embrace a single subject. What that means is if it's dealing with, let's say, education or a certain issue with education, it has to only deal with that issue with education. It can't deal with education, immigration, and then something else. So single subject line for that. Thank you. Prop 130, another constitutional amendment. That means it's amending the Constitution, the Arizona Constitution. Prop 130 will allow the legislator to set certain property tax exemptions, amounts, and qualifications rather than determining details in the Constitution. So it's going to give the legislature a little bit more power in regards to property tax. Another constitutional amendment we have here, Prop 131. This one creates the office of Lieutenant Governor to be elected on a joint ticket with the governor and to succeed the governor in case of vacancy. So as of right now, in the chain of command, if something happens to the governor, the Secretary of State is next up, and they will be the governor. So a lot of other states have lieutenant governors. So this is something that it has been proposed for us to also have a lieutenant governor. All right, Proposition 132, this is a constitutional amendment. This requires 3/5 supermajority vote to pass ballot initiatives, both statutes and constitutional amendments. These are legislative referred amendments that would approve taxes. So anything that has to do with taxes will require a 3/5 or 60% majority vote to pass. All right, Prop 209, this is a citizen initiative. So people of Arizona put this on the ballot. This limits the interest rates for death and from healthcare services and increases the value of certain property and earnings exempt from debt collection processes. So that's something that the voters want to see. Next, Proposition 211. This is another citizen initiative. This requires independent expenditures of more than $50,000 on a statewide campaign or $25,000 on the local campaign to disclose the names of all original sources who contributed $5,000 or more. So it's just one of those things to try to clear up some of the dark money. But this is a citizen initiative. We can go to the next one. All right, Prop 308, this is a legislative referral. So the legislature actually proposed this. This repeals provisions of Proposition 300 from 2006 to allow in-state tuition from non-citizen residents. So the legislature would like to repeal provisions in Prop 300. Okay, Proposition 309, this is another legislative referral. This requires date of birth and voter identification number for mail-in ballots and eliminates 2-document alternatives for photo ID for in-person voting. So, you know, when you go to the polls and they say, well, you can have either your photo ID, like a bill or something like that. Well, the legislation says that they want to eliminate that, and you have to have a date of birth and a voter identification number for mail-in ballots, I believe, when you drop it off. Prop 310, this is a legislative referral. This creates a 0.1% sales tax for 20 years to fund the Arizona's fire districts. Okay, and then this we have initiatives. So there's 3 initiatives. I'm not going to get into it, but you can look it up on the Secretary of State's website because they're pretty loaded, a lot of information. But there's Voters' Right to Know Act. There's a Predatory Debt Collection Protection Act. And then there's the Arizonans for Free and Fair Elections Act. And all of these propositions and ballot measures will be on the ballot this general election. If you want to do more research on that, please visit the Secretary of State's website. Look under the initiatives or referendums, and you'll see all that information. All right, so this is just some frequently asked questions that I've been asked. So how do I know if I'm registered to vote? You can check your voter registration by contacting your county recorder or county elections department. Excuse me. If you're in Maricopa County, you could also go to ballotready.vote, or you can go to arizona.vote, the Secretary of State runs. But that will let you know where you stand as far as your registration. Another question, do I need to re-register if I've moved? Yes, even if you moved across the street, because you don't know how the districts and the precincts is lined up. So if you change your address, you change your name, or you decide to change your political party, you got to re-register. And re-registering doesn't cost you anything, so you can do it as many times you like. You can do it once a month, once a week, whatever you like. I'm a voter with disability. Will my polling place be accessible, and what options do I have to cast a ballot? In Arizona, voters with disabilities have actually lots of options. There's accessible voting devices and machines there. It should be ADA compliant, with ramps and things like that. There are resources there for deaf, blind, and hard of hearing. They have alternative formats for ballots, including Braille and large print. So they have like these really big ballots that you can look at. If you know someone that is bedridden, they can't leave their home, or they're in a hospice, the county also has special election boards that will actually visit them and help them, vote and take their ballot back to to their main office. So the only thing I would say with that is you want to make sure you contact them as soon as possible, because the staffing is limited. So if you think that you need a special election board, just hurry up and go ahead and put in that request. Voters, this is what a lot of people don't know. Voters with disabilities, just any voters, you have a right to bring any person of your choosing into the polling place to help assist you. So you're hard of seeing, hard of hearing, you want somebody to come in and help you kind of navigate the polling place, is perfectly okay for you to bring someone along with you. And finally, voters with a disability, and if you have any concerns, even if you don't have a disability, if you have any concerns or you feel like something was done inappropriately or wrong, contact your county immediately. Contact them directly. Contact your county recorder or county elections office. They will probably have an answer for you, and I'm sure that they'll be able to help resolve the issue. So contact them before you go to YouTube or call a friend. Contact the source, and that's the county recorder's office. All right, and then we got some resources. Some of these I mentioned throughout this presentation, but eBallotReady.vote in Maricopa County if you want to check your registration. Arizona.vote for all of Arizona, check your registration. azcounties.org, they have lots of information on the county offices. So there's offices, I mean, there's county office, county attorney, things like that. They will have a listing of those candidates on their website. We do not put out a pamphlet though, but it will be on the website. azsos.gov, as I mentioned before, that's where you're going to find the initiatives. They also have a publicity pamphlet. It will have the ballot measures and things like that, arguments for and against, and the judicial retention election candidates. If you go to azcourts.gov, that is where you can see the judicial performance review, and you can actually see the rating of these judges. azcleanelections.gov, that's my agency. If you go there, go to azcleanelections.gov, go to voter dashboard, put in your address. It'll tell you basically everything you need to know about voting in your district, down to your precinct level. So super useful. And if you go to recorder.pima.gov, they also have information. It's kind of comparable to Maricopa's for your voter registration. So you could also visit them. Yeah. All right, and I got to plug our resources. So we have the voter education guide that is coming out, I believe, this next coming week. Statewide and legislative candidates will be in this voter education guide. It is available now online at azcleanelections.gov. My voter dashboard, I just mentioned that. You go to our website, put in your address. It'll tell you polling locations, Dropbox locations, who's in your what elected officials are in your district, etc. Our debates, we have debates in all 30 districts. We have statewide debates. Those, I think today we have the Attorney General debate. So if you really want to find out what the candidate is talking about and what they say on certain issues, check out our debates. There is also available on our website and on YouTube. We have a candidate's compass tool that you put in information about your values. It will kind of line you up to current elected officials. We have an ID at the polls quiz. If you have ID, you're unsure, like, I don't know if this is going to work, take the ID at the polls quiz and let you know exactly what you need to vote. And finally, our website, azcleanelections.gov. Go and check out the website. Lots of information. If you have any questions, our email is on there. Feel free to contact us and we will reach back out to you.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Avery, we had requested, some of the booklets. Are you going to be able to send the booklets to the church?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will get that to you. I'll make sure you get those.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for me. So I appreciate the opportunity. I have jet lag, so forgive me if I sounded rusty. Thank you. Thank you all.
Appreciate it, Avery. Thank you. We will now turn it over to Betty. Oh, you're on mute, Betty.
Thank you so much for having me here to represent the Maricopa County Elections Department. I have a disclaimer. I am online right now through my VPN at work, and it's going in and out. So I hope that we don't get cut off. Am I sharing my screen at this moment?
Not right now. Yeah, whenever you're ready, you can share it.
Okay. If I could share. All right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Yay. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm here to talk about, following the ballot. What happens after you drop off your early ballot in the mail, or you drop it off in a drop box, or if you vote in person on election day or anytime in the 27 days of early voting. What is that process? Where does it go according to statute, so that you have confidence that this is a secure and transparent transaction? So there's a lot that goes into it, and I just want to provide some context. With the primary election that we just had, that was a historic turnout. We had over 35% of the folks voting, 867,000, and we anticipate for the general election 1.5 million. So almost double. I'm not going to review the timeline because Avery did such a wonderful job in talking about the timeline for the general election. But you know, Maricopa County wants to make sure that every voter has voting options, including in-person voting options. Secure drop boxes, or come on in for election day. You can come in 27 days prior to election day at any one of our vote centers. We are going to have 223 vote centers throughout Maricopa County, and we just got approval from the Board of Supervisors today that they approve us being able to present that information on our website. So you can go there, locations.maricopa.vote, and see where there's going to be a vote center close to you or wherever you happen to be. So early voting, really early voting, you know, and the ballot and following the ballot starts with being able to, you know, being able to understand that 27 days out of election day, we actually mail out our ballots to early voters. And some folks fill it out really quick, and we start to receive those back. So that's going to happen pretty soon, and we're really excited about that process. The next thing that I want to make sure that everyone understands is that with the early ballot, there is security, right? And so you may or may not know this, but every single green affidavit envelope has a unique barcode that you can see here on the green envelope. And that green barcode also identifies the voter and the election. So at any given point in time, a voter can track their ballot. And a lot of people, only 35% of the folks out there actually know that you can track your ballot by texting JOIN to 628-683, or go to your personalized dashboard. Every voter has a personalized dashboard on BeBallotReady.vote, and you can track your ballot. You will know when it was processed, when it was signature verified, when it was counted. You know, when we received it back, when we sent it out to you, every step of the way, you can track your ballot if you are someone that is on the active early voting list or requested an early ballot for a one time. So these images on the right-hand side kind of give you an idea of what those text messages look like. But it really is a wonderful way to be able to track your ballot every step of the way, have confidence and knowledge when your vote was counted and when it was counted, which is really important. Now I want to show you, okay, with all those early ballots, because 88% of the folks vote early, what happens? Well, for those 27 days of early voting, you can see that folks do drop it off in the mailbox, right? So the USPS and the Elections Department, we have a very special relationship. And every day we receive those early ballots through the USPS. Also, we have bipartisan teams that are the ballot couriers that every day go to every single one of those vote centers, and they will collect those early affidavit envelopes. You can see the images here of how they are, you know, taking each one of those tubs. You can see the red tubs there. And they are, the first thing that they're doing is they're going to inventory what the log sheets and the control slips say is in that tub. They make sure that everything that was signed off on is indeed what we received. And then and only then does that process move forward. Once it does move forward, the next step is to simply count the number of envelopes. We're not counting the ballot, we're counting the number of envelopes received. We do that every day. There's a nightly audit every day. There's a security check all the way. We have chain of custodies with serial numbers on every single one of those security ties. Everything is logged, everything is signed for. And then and only then do we just count the number of ballots received. We have a log, so we know at any given point in time that at this vote center or at that mailbox, security box drop off, how many ballots were dropped off every single day. And as a voter, you can request that information and we'll provide it to you. So after we receive it, then what we do is we have to sort it. So this is an image, an actual image of the primary election evening of when we received 122,000 early ballots. So not every person that had an early ballot mailed their ballot early. We did receive 122,000 on election night. And what most people aren't aware of is that we can't touch those until the poll closes and the vote centers close. That has to happen before we can then get these early ballots back to our election department. And there's a whole chain of custody involved with that. It's very secure. We have bipartisan teams. Here you see that they're receiving all of those envelopes. And actually what people don't understand is that we had 210 vote centers in Maricopa County for the primary election. And some of those vote centers were almost 2 hours away from our building. So the process is that the inspector at the poll center after polls are closed goes through a very tedious process and secure process of closing out that vote center. They will then take all those envelopes and they'll also take the memory cards, and I'll talk a little bit about that, and put that in a secure black bag. They will transport that to a receiving site. The receiving site, again with bipartisan teams, will be escorted by the police department to our location. We will then inventory that to make sure that all the control slips and the logs and all the audit slips verify what is indeed inside those bags. And then and only then do we move forward. Now on the primary election, we didn't receive the, really didn't start to receive any of the materials until about 10:30 at night. And then we had to sort them. So you can see that every single envelope is being sorted so that it's facing the same way. And we do that because it's easier to scan the image of the signature that way. So that process took until about sorting it probably until 12:30 midnight. And then it had to be scanned. And that process took about until 8:30 the next morning. So it is a process that takes time. So that's what happens with the early ballot envelopes, right? Before it can even continue to be processed. Now, during election day, there are people, we had 12% of the folks vote in person at a vote center on election day. What do? Well, they go through the same check-in process, but they're not going to get their ballot and then put it in an envelope. They're going to insert it into that precinct-based tabulator that you see there on the left-hand side. Once that happens, the vote is counted immediately. And it's stored on those memory cards that you see there in the middle. And then on election night, when we receive, those trucks bringing us back those black bags, we will then upload that information into the standalone server that you see there, which is an air-gapped network, and it is not connected to the internet. Okay, so then those results actually were posted around the 12:34 mark when we posted some results. The first results that we can by statute post is at 8 p.m. election night. Those were really the 600,000 early votes that we had processed through that Saturday, maybe some from Sunday prior to election day. And then the second set of results included the server, all of the memory cards that we uploaded to the server, okay? And then the 122,000 early ballots that we received on election night, we were able to process that within 2 days. And then within 3 days of election day, we processed and reported 99% of all of the votes. The 1% outstanding were the questionable signatures on the affidavit envelopes, and also the no signatures and the provisional ballots. So What happens next? All right, let's say your earlier ballot, it reaches the signature verification team. Again, bipartisan teams, and also everything we do is observed by political observers. And all of our rooms are 24/7 live stream for transparency. So you can see here that we take a binary image because a black and white image is much easier to read, and we compare it against signatures that we have on file. Okay, it's a multi-tiered system, and even those that are acceptable are still reviewed. 2% of them are reviewed before they move forward in the process. And any questionable signature has to be managed by a manager. All right. Some of the things we look for, you can see some of the things here, the spacing, the slants, etc. It is a stringent process. Everyone has to be trained. I myself am trained to signature verify. I was trained by the Secretary of State's office, who are trained by the FBI in forensics. So we know what to look for, and we are trained never to accept or sign off on any signature that we are not 100% confident. Okay, and so any questionable signature that does exist by law, we allow the voter to be able to cure that questionable signature 5 business days from election day. And if there's no signature on that early ballot, they have until 7 p.m. election night. So if you're one of those early ballot folks, if you're going to drop it off on election day, make sure your envelope is signed, because otherwise it's just not going to count, because we're not going to get it in time. But we do also have a platform where you can cure your envelope by texting in text to cure, and you can provide the information necessary. And then we can, if we have the valid ID and address, then we can sign that off. You don't have to come in to our election office. Any signature that's not cured, or any signature that is not signed by the deadline, according to statute, will not be counted, and it will be reported as being rejected on the official canvas. So now let's say that your envelope has been accepted, it's signature verified, wonderful. Now it goes through this machine, top technology, because we have to open the envelope. At this point, your ballot is still not removed from your envelope. So this machine will make a nice clean slit to avoid damaging the ballot. From there, it goes to ballot processing. This is an example of the big room, bipartisan teams again, politically observed, 24/7 live stream cameras, where they are making sure that the control slips match the number of ballots that they receive. And they actually get batches of, let's say, 250, and they count and they recount to make sure that that's what they have, and everything is logged. Every bipartisan team has the same thing on their table. They are not allowed to have any personal effects, including cell phones or smartwatches. So everyone has the same materials on their desk to make sure that before they open that envelope and remove the ballot from the envelope, that everything is counted correctly. So this is just an image of how they count the envelopes before removing that ballot, and they have to make sure that it's accurate. Once they do remove the ballot from the envelope, they're checking for damages. They want to make sure that there are no damages, because if there's a damaged ballot, let's say someone accidentally tore it and they threw a bunch of tape on it, our tabulators can't read that. So it has to be duplicated. And that's what they're doing here. And at this point, once the envelope and the ballot is separated, that is the birth of the secret vote. And the two cannot be married again together. This is an example of a control slip. Somebody received, the bipartisan team received the 50 affidavit envelope. One was damaged, therefore one had to be duplicated. Therefore, only 49 were going straight to tabulation. And then we have the transfer of custody, lots of control checks, lots of audit slips, so that we can check every single batch when we need to, and it's very easy for us to do that. Then and only then does it go to ballot tabulations. You can see here each white tub has about 250 batches of ballots ready to be tabulated, and that is actually in our tabulation center, where all that wonderful tabulation happens on our high-speed machines, where they can do 8,000 to 9,000, count 8,000 to 9,000 ballots per hour. This is a really important video that I want to share with you. Let's see if it works. I don't know if you can hear that. Is the audio working?
No, can't hear it.
Okay, I'm going to talk through this with you. It basically shows the tabulation equipment that we have. And then we always do a logic and accuracy test on that equipment before and after each election to make sure that your vote is tabulated accurately. And then we do have also the political parties that do the hand count audit. So we have the tabulation machines in the precinct, in the voting center, only on election day. They only work on election day. They cannot accept an early ballot. Okay, and then that is an image of all the wiring that we have that shows how our server is not connected to the internet. Right, it's in a standalone air-gapped system, which I had mentioned to you. And you can go to our website and you can see at any given point in time, 24/7, what's happening in any single one of our rooms, including in this, in our tabulation center, where we do all the tabulation. That room also has restricted access. There are no hidden spots with the camera, which is really great. And then this is an image of how the tabulator that is in each vote center only works with election day only votes. They have tamper evident seals. They have encrypted memory cards, locks, passcodes that only the inspector has access to. So it really is very secure, and people take comfort in that. So to recap, we don't just get a ballot back and then count it and present it. We have to, by statute, signature verify every single ballot. 100% of those ballots are verified by a human being. That's by statute. Then we have to cure, and again, by statute, allow the voter to cure their ballot 5 business days past election day. Then we continue to go through the ballot processing system. Then we can start to tabulate. And then we have the hand count audit after that. That is the process. On average, it takes 8.2 days to go through the whole process. We did it in the primary election in 8. And considering that we had the 122,000 early ballots, that was really a great feat and great testament to the training that we have with our temporary workers that helped us out. This chart basically shows, from 2006 to 2022, what the average day has been in terms of posting final results. And you can see from 2006 through 2016, we didn't even do signature curing, so that didn't really start until 2018. So we think that this was really, kudos to our team in being able to get those results out. A lot of people ask, why does it take so long? This is why it takes so long, or I should say, why it takes as long as it does, right? We have to follow statute. And then, of course, post-election, we have our hand count audits. Again, you can see here an actual image of the 3 political party chairmen, and they are drawing lots to determine, what percent of the voting center batches of votes they're going to audit, and the ones that we received, the black bags that we received back on election night. And then once that happens, well, we store everything in a box that is logged, that has temper evident seals. And we keep that in our vault through the contest period. After the contest period, then we send those election materials back to the Secretary of State's Treasury vault. And then they store that, and for a general election, they'll store it for 24 months. Interesting to note that yesterday, we started to return to the Treasurer's office the primary election ballots. So we just started to do that yesterday. So that's really it. That is the life of the ballot, the process. Please be ballot ready.vote. Your personalized dashboard gives you all the information. Get ready for that general election. get out there and vote. And then go to our website. You can go to any social media. We are on all the platforms. You can get election information on YouTube as an example. If you want to know more about early voting, in-person voting, those videos are there for you to view at your leisure at home. Share the message. And you can also take a look at our election connecting video shorts with our election directors, Scott and Ray. Those are 10 minutes and less. And then all of our fill the ballot videos, you saw one of them tonight. They're usually 1 to 2 minutes long. So really simple. So you can go to our website, subscribe to our newsletter. You may want to take a little snapshot of this. It really is a plethora of information and election resources available to you. In addition to all of our partners like Clean Elections, there's just a lot of information for voters to be informed on where, when, how, who to vote for in the general election. And of course, reach out to me anytime that you have a question, call, email. I'm here to serve you, our voting community. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present tonight.
Thank you so much, Betty. Much appreciated. All right. Like Modestine said in the YouTube chat, great information from both of our panelists. I would like to open up the floor for the audience to ask any questions. This is our Q&A session. You can drop it in the Zoom chat, the YouTube chat. If you want to unmute yourself and ask that way, you can do that as well.
I'd like to start, Jonathan. Thank you. With regard to individuals like myself, whose signature has changed over the years, you know, when you do the verification, do you take that into account? And coupled with that there are some people that have developed developmental disabilities, so their signature may not match. So I just have a question there, and then a couple of others, but I want to give you a chance to answer that.
Yeah, and you know, those are great questions. So we do recognize two things: that over the course of a person's life, right, they may have registered to vote when they're 18, and the first time they voted when they're 18, they may have, you know, dotted their I with a heart. And then, you know, either their signature has sophisticated or they've sophisticated, and their signature has changed over the years. So what we do initially at that first level tier of checking the signature is that we go and go back to the most recent 3 signature verification information that we received. So we really do have a file, quite a large file. Anytime that you register to vote, anytime that you sign a document with the recorder's office, we have your signature on file. So typically we'll have the latest 3 signatures to verify. And if that is questionable at that point, then someone will just say that they're not going to accept that. It then moves to the manager level. The manager level has the ability to see more than just the last 3 signatures on file. They can go way back, and they will do the due diligence to make sure, because we are trained to understand that it's not just that someone may be, you know, may have aged, maybe, you know, they're 60 versus, you know, 18, but there are also signature changes that they're trained to see as someone does age. You know, there are issues that we recognize happen if someone just like broke their arm, right? And they're right-handed and then they have to use their left arm, and it's going to be different. The process there is, if they're really not sure, is that they're going to call the voter. They're going to ask the voter a series of questions that only the voter will know. Last 4 of your social, your mother's maiden name, you know, things of that nature. They'll also send a letter. If we can't reach that voter, we're going to send a letter stating, hey, we have a question about your signature. Call us back. And by statute, we only have to make a reasonable attempt. I will tell you, working inside elections, that we have made like up to 5 attempts in calling folks, because we want to make sure that the eligible voters, that their vote is counted. So we really go, you know, outside of our way to make sure that that happens. And they are trained to understand what happens with folks that, you know, folks that are stroke victims. My mother herself was a stroke victim. Her signature changed. But there are telltale signs, and it's usually the first character of the first name and the first character of the last name, as an example, that typically don't change. It's very interesting when you go through that training, you can spot these types of things. But no questionable signature is done at a lower tier level. It is done at a management level. The voter is contacted, and only when we can't cure it after many attempts does the signature then fall as rejected. I hope that answered that question.
Yes, and two quick questions. You've described a very, very comprehensive process, and I really appreciate that. There are going to, you said it's bipartisan, but are there going to be observers? And what happens if the observers tend to intimidate, the people who are counting the ballots? And then the final question, Betty, is it takes a lot of people to do this. So are there jobs available?
Yes, these are wonderful questions. Thank you so much. Yes, we have political party observers in every step of the process. Signature verification, ballot processing when they're removing the envelope from the ballot, curing, listening to the phone calls as we're calling the voters about their signature, and also tabulation, which, by the way, also includes Braille tabulation, right? We have to get those Braille ballots. We don't read Braille ballots, with the machine can't. So we do have folks with visual disabilities that will read the ballot. They will vocalize what the voter's intent was, and then political observers will also see that and see how that is entered into the duplication machine. Adjudication, same thing, over ballots or under ballots. Everything observed by political observers, bipartisan teams always. And what we've done this past election is we've implemented an ambassador program. So the ambassadors are only permanent employees that are trained that can be an ambassador. They observe the poll observers. The poll observers are not allowed to stand within, I can't remember, like 6 feet of an actual worker to avoid that intimidation. They are not allowed to speak to any worker. If they have a question, they ask the observer. If they have a concern, they ask the observer. And then we will manage that process. If at any point in time a political observer is not complying, then they will be asked to leave immediately, because we need the process to be transparent, and we need the process to allow our workers, whether they're temporary or permanent, to do their job and to do it effectively and correctly.
And the final question was, are there jobs available?
Oh my gosh, yes. And there are jobs available. If you want to get involved, go to getinvolved.maricopa.vote. Getinvolved.maricopa.vote. There you'll see all the positions available. Find the one that interests you, click submit your interest, and then a recruiter will contact you to start the process. We have to hire 3,000 people in total. We still have more. We've hired some, right? But we have a lot more to hire. We have, we have 27-day vote centers that are open for 27 days. We have vote centers that are open for 12 days. We have vote centers open for 2 days, and vote centers that are only open on election day. And we really need a lot of poll workers that can work our 2-day and our 1-day only poll center sites. Remember, we're going to have 223 in the Valley, or I should say Maricopa County. So that's for poll workers, but we're still hiring people to work at our facility in Phoenix. We have to hire more truck drivers, ballot couriers, warehouse workers, the people that actually put the materials together that then has to go to the vote center for setup. We need people to help us with signature verification, get trained on that. There's 600 of those positions available. So again, you can pick and choose which position is of interest. We also have evening only positions, part-time positions. We recognize people work, during the day, or they go to school. So there's a position available for everyone, and the training is specific to the position. And we also have modified our training, so you can have part of that training at home online. And then we have evening training sessions, and we have weekend training sessions. We really do try to make it as, as much as possible to meet a person's schedule, because we recognize everyone has a life. But yes, it's an excellent way to learn what's going on behind the scenes, get some election education, see the transparency that we offer, make some money, and the address again is getinvolved.maricopa.gov.
If you go to the chat, Avery has put that information in the chat. Just use your cell phone, or write it down, take a picture of it with your cell phone, or write that down. So these are paid positions. They're not
Yes.
volunteer positions.
That's correct. And they're anywhere from $13.80 per hour to $20 per hour, depending upon the position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betty and Avery. I have a question. In some jurisdictions, there have been attempts to eliminate early voting. Are there any attempts going on right now? I know that there had been some laws that were trying to be introduced, and I believe that they failed. So where are we with that in the state of Arizona?
I could chime in on this. There's always attempts, especially recently in these past few years, to stop mail-in voting or to change the election process in some kind of way. But as of now, the biggest change that we will see is going to be the permanent early voting to the active early voting. So all that means is that you have to participate in, I believe, 4 elections. That includes municipal jurisdiction elections, and it keeps you on the active early voting list. Whereas before, once you were on that permanent early voting list, you automatically got a ballot. So now, if you do not vote in those consecutive elections, you may be kicked off that active early voting list. So you would then have to contact your county recorder to add you back onto the list, or re-register and then check that little box. But as of right now, we're still doing mail-in voting. So I think mail-in voting starts October 12th. Good question.
Thank you. And then one other question. Are there any issues with taking an early ballot to a box for someone else who may not be able to go to the box to deliver their ballot?
I'll let Betty answer this one.
Yeah. So you know what? So by law, you in your household, if there are members in your household that for whatever reason they can't take it in or don't want to, you can by law grab all of those ballots. There could be 10 people in your household. You can grab those and you can deliver them, drop them off at a drop box or at the any of the vote centers that have a drop box. That's absolutely fine. Or if you're a caregiver, you can do the same thing. So, if you are someone that lives next door to someone, you're not related, you're not a household member, they're just a neighbor and they want you to take their ballot, that's not acceptable. We suggest don't do that because that's not according to statute. But, household members, caregivers, absolutely. And it doesn't matter how many there are. I have a neighbor across the street and I think they have like 8 people living in that home. So one person could be the designated person to take all those early ballots and drop them off. And it's quite acceptable. Remember, for the people out there that are concerned about that, we instruct them, we teach them, we educate them that there's a whole process involved, So if there are some nefarious characters out there and they have, let's say a ballot's not in an envelope. Well, we can't do anything with that, right? If it's in the drop box, it must be in a green signed affidavit envelope. And then it has that tracking number and it goes through the signature verification process and the rest of that process. And so when we communicate that to folks, and they see it, then they have a better understanding and they feel much better about that issue. But long way around, yes, caregivers, household members is absolutely fine.
Thank you.
All right. Were there any final questions before we wrap up tonight? Checking YouTube. Okay. All right. This is a great town hall. My final thoughts, I want to say, open my eyes up to like a lot of things. It's high transparency, you know, when it comes to voting. Definitely there's layers of security that I didn't even know, you know, existed out there. For example, the room that Betty mentioned that is not even like connected to the internet. They're making sure there's no type of like hacking, no type of malicious actions going forward with this. So very thorough, very secure, highly transparent, and this helped mitigate doubt, because I know a lot of people that I know of, friends, family members, they doubt the voting process. They came up just not having the resources and the people to talk to get educated about it. So that's the whole purpose of this town hall, as said before, mitigate doubt and just to know that voting does matter. And to close it out, I'll pass it on back to Bishop Russell.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Again, thank you, Betty and Avery, for taking your time out to educate us. This has been extremely, extremely informative, and so I appreciate it. So we just want to continue to put the word out. Voting matters. October 11th, October 12th are the days for last day to register, and early voting begins. And so we're making it available for anybody who needs help registering to vote. If you have not registered to vote, we will help you. It's easy to do so. If you're just not getting there, we want everybody to exercise the right to vote. So again, thank you, everyone. God bless you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too, Betty.